Bell K chooses not to participate on the television side of things based on the numerous warrants that are out against him. However, he does title the episodes, and episode 512 is currently entitled
Matt Murphy, answer his question or resign.
Libertarian Lunch, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So, yeah. We had a great conversation with Mark Green. It did not start off well. It did not start off well because I asked a question about the biggest news story of the day yesterday afternoon, and Mark seemed a little upset that I had the audacity to ask the question, and I became a little upset that he was so upset, seemingly at me, for asking a question that seemed to be a pretty obvious one to lead off the interview. Allow me to explain. So yesterday we had Congressman Mark Green on the show, and this is less than 2 hours before he made an announcement to the 7th Congressional District, the rest of Tennessee, and the rest of the United States of America that he would no longer be a candidate for re-election to his post as 7th Congressional District Representative, which is obviously his choice. And I have the announcement, and I'll read it for you in a moment. So yesterday, I asked him about Mike Turner, who is the head of the Intelligence Committee, and his pronouncement that there was a very real and tangible national security threat that existed that the rest of America needed to know about. Now, when I asked the question, I was under the assumption that Mike Turner was telling the truth when he said that he had already opened up this information to every other member of Congress that wanted to see it. And then it turns out later on in the conversation, Congressman Green noted that he had not yet seen the information, but it was pretty obvious that he was upset about all of this. And at first I thought he was upset at me. And so there was a little bit of tension going on. And for those who heard it, you heard the tension. We repaired that, and we've not spoken, but we have texted back and forth, and I've told him it was not my intention to press you on classified matters. It was my intention to ask you a question about the biggest news item coming out of Washington, D.C. yesterday. And we're all well and good, and it's all good. And I congratulated him on his service as a congressman, and I wished him well in his future endeavors. And he said that he has come to the conclusion, as he put in his press release, he said it to me personally, that he does not believe the fight is in Washington. He believes now that the fight is with Washington.
All I know is you cost us another good one.
That's what I'm told. So yesterday afternoon, I'm fielding questions about whether or not I feel like my interview had... No, of course it didn't. Let's all stop. Let's stop all of that.
Just take responsibility.
I mean, I can if you want me to. I mean, depending on your point of view on the whole matter. Larry number 2 says, no, Panda Boy. You got pushy and miffed because you were a jerk. Okay, Larry, I accept your assessment of the situation. Thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you for listening to the radio show, and I appreciate whatever time you're able to give us over the course of the afternoon. Brian said, if I call in and talk to Matt, can I retire too? Yeah, you can. I mean, I can insure it.
No, you don't. It's not that you can retire. It's that you must. Matt requires it.
I watched a 99.7 on the YouTube yesterday. Matt reminds me of Wolfman Jack, and Mac Murray reminds me of the stoner dude on Fast Times at Ridgemont.
So he's Spicoli and you're
Wolfman Jack.
I could see that a little bit with you, but only because of the beer.
I mean, you know, I'll take whatever I can get. I don't mind. So several of you are saying, 3143 says, well, he got his money from Washington in the stock trading. Maybe he can be a stockbroker. He has amazing returns. You know, the last time that Congressman Mark Green was on the show, we asked him about that too. And he didn't seem annoyed at the question at all. He says that he has a very good investment manager that lives in Clarksville. I asked him who it was. He said that he would not tell me because he did not want liberals descending on this person and trying to destroy his individual. But I think if I'm remembering correctly, he noted that he would be happy to offer such suggestions individually. But one way or the other, we no longer have Mark Green. U.S. Representative Mark Green announces his retirement from Congress. Obviously, this is not effective immediately. He'll serve out his term just one day after leading the House in the historic vote to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Green was serving as chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, said that he's ready to return home. I'll just read from his press release. In the past few months, in reading the writings of our framers, I was reminded of their intent for representatives to be citizen legislators, to serve for a season and then return home. Our country and our Congress is broken beyond most means of repair. I've come to realize our fight is not here within Washington. Our fight is with Washington. As I have done my entire life, I will continue serving this country, but in a new capacity. Green said he was thankful to his wife. Is that Carney, I guess? And his children for supporting him while he served in Congress. During my time in the Army, they sacrificed to dad and husband with multiple deployments. And as I have served here in Congress, they have supported me as I've been away most weeks. Thanking his constituents in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, saying it was an unbelievable honor to represent them. And we thank him in the 7th Congressional District. We thank Dr. Green for all of his service to his country, and I have no doubt that that service will continue. So the suggestion has been made, and I would be among those that would be supportive of this idea. The suggestion has been made that Mark Green is looking toward the governorship of the state of Tennessee down the road. Obviously, Bill Lee is term limited and will not be able to run again, and that's in a couple of years, but some are suggesting that he's going to come home, take care of personal affairs, and then potentially run for governor in the next election cycle, which would be, 2027, I guess that would be.
Is that when that's what I was wondering, is when Lee's term would end?
I think it's 2027, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that is correct. Ron writes in and says, Matt Murphy, political assassin. That is not true. That is not true. I had nothing to do with this. And then 8335 said, it's obvious Mark Green was upset about something else before he ever started speaking with you. If I were to go out on a limb, I would say he had a couple of things catching up with him, forcing him to retire from Congress unwillingly, something that he doesn't want made public. I don't know that that's the case or not. I don't know what's going on with Mark Green personally. I can only take him at face value. He seems to be a trustworthy sort, and he has been a worthy representative of the 7th Congressional District. I'll say that. He seems like a really good guy. He's also a more difficult guy to know. I've gotten to know several of the congressmen that we talk to on a regular basis, and Mark has been a little more difficult to get to know, but he's a busy guy. I don't suggest that you need alliances or friendships if you're in my role or his role. I noted that as soon as he came on the air yesterday, he seemed annoyed.
It's so much easier to understand and believe the potential frustration he was dealing with as a representative than it is to have to wonder what was going on behind the scenes. I think that frustration is probably enough to make you just want to throw your hands up.
At the time, so now that you layer on top of our conversation the fact that he knew that he was retiring yesterday, at the time that it happened and in the aftermath of our interview, I believed, I would tell you, and I still think that this has a lot to do with it. I think Mark Green was annoyed at Mike Turner. I don't think Mark Green was annoyed at me. I don't think Congressman Green necessarily intended to come after me, but that's what he did in his answer. And I don't understand. And I even couched the question in these terms. For those that missed it, you can find it on the podcast, and I won't belabor the interview. But I asked him an obvious question. There was a breaking news story about a, quote, national security threat as described by the chairman of the Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives, Mike Turner. He said that there was a national security threat that the American people needed to know about. So much so that he was calling on the President of the United States to divulge this information. Well, now I'm being told by credible sources within the Beltway of Washington, D.C., that a lot of this was sound and fury signifying nothing, that Mike Turner wants Ukrainian funding, and one of the ways that he wants to try to get Ukrainian funding is to scare the hell out of average Americans so that they think that Russia's going to rain nukes down from space if we don't do something about it.
It was also kind of telling that, as we discovered later in your conversation with him, he was getting defensive about giving you answers that he didn't even have yet.
Right. He was like, well, I'm not going to divulge classified information on the radio show. And then later on, he says, well, I haven't even seen it yet. I don't go into the skiff until 5 o'clock this afternoon. Well, then you couldn't divulge classified information that I'm asking you about if you wanted to. So I don't understand why we're getting off on the wrong foot here. But I'll give back as good as I get. And I'm not and this is what fascinates me. I know that I'm a jerk. I get that. I know that I can be an ass. I get that. But I am on your side. I promise you. Whether you think I am or not, I promise you I'm on your side. And I'm not about to have an elected servant act as if they are our superior when they're not. We are contemporaries, and I'm talking about all of you. He works for you. Mark Green or any other public servant works for you. I act as a voice for you, or at least I try to, and I know that I don't do my job from time to time, and I know I get ahead of my skis from time to time. I am fully aware of my failures as a talk show host. But I'm also fully aware that the way he came after me as if to say, how dare you? Ask the question, what? What do you mean, how dare me? How dare you? How dare Washington, D.C. keep all of these secrets from the American people when they ought not keep them? How dare Washington, D.C. in their bureaucratic nonsense, they hide their actions behind classified documentation, behind that stamp that says top secret. And I know it to be true. Now, I don't know whether or not the information that Mark Green was referring to is legitimately top secret and should be legitimately classified or not. And I am fully aware that there are things that the American people don't need to know. But those things that we don't need to know pale in comparison to the mountain of evidence, the mountain of material that Washington, D.C. has overclassified for years as a way of hiding it from the American people. So if it seemed that my dander went up, it's because my dander went up. Now, two individuals can have mild disagreements about a subject and remain friends, and I believe that's what we've done with Congressman Mark Green. As I had a conversation with him, I mentioned it at the open, we had a conversation via text last evening, and everything's all well and good. And I expressed that I had no desire to force him in any sort of way, not that I could, to divulge classified information. One of the ways that Washington, D.C. gets away with what Washington, D.C. gets away with is this nonsense about classifying just about everything. All right, so that's that, and we'll put that on the side burner for just a couple of minutes. I am curious about what you think is next for the 7th Congressional District. What is next? What's next for Mark Green? Most pundits believe that he might be setting up a gubernatorial run. That remains to be seen, and we'll wait on that. What happens with the 7th Congressional District also remains to be seen, and I'm curious who you would throw up as a candidate if you had the ability to do so. It's 1220 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 7057 says boring. Okay. Well, you know what to do. There's a way to change the subject. All you have to do is tell me what to talk about, 7057. I'm happy to receive. I'm at your service.